You're welcome again to this edition of Searching the Heart. We are still on our series on reality. Okay, we've touched quite a number of things, most important things. Now we want to round up on that. And who really determines good and evil? This is the question we're asking today. And most people's definitions of reality are based on what is good and what is evil. Like we discussed in the previous episode, humanity defines what good and evil is. Human beings are at the pinnacle of creation, and they define what good and evil is. In that sense, whatever is good and evil determines for us what reality is all about. And of course, we know that many atheists base their presumption that God does not exist on the preponderance of evil on the earth. And so we're going to be looking at this from this very angle today. The finality of the issue. What is going to determine human civilization in the next century, in the next 1,000 years, if we still have 1,000 years on the earth? We have gone through a series also on the end. Do we expect a human Messiah, or do we expect Jesus to return? These are some of the issues that have to be discussed, have to be understood for us to understand what good and evil is. Okay? So one of the very important topics for us to look at is, or issues for us to look at, is the question, is humanity the final arbiter for good and evil? Or is God that final arbiter? This is one of the things we have looked at, and we're still going to be looking at today. Humanity as the final arbiter for good and evil. Okay? Or is it God that is that final arbiter? This is the fork road in which we have found ourselves as an entire civilization in this very dispensation. Okay? We know that the entirety of modern civilization has a source from the ancient Near East. Biblical theologians will call it the ancient Near East, what we know today as the Middle East, but in those days was the ancient Near East. Okay, whatever we have today has its source from there, and up to today that is a center of crisis, a center of issues coming out and into the world, and of course it extends into Europe and a little into Asia, down into Africa. And you know, that little geographic region determines a lot of the past, present, and future of humanity. Okay? Some of these sources are Semitic sources. Some of them are Persian sources. Some of them are Arabian sources. And all of us on the earth tend to want to trace our ancestry to either Semitic, Persian, or Arabian backgrounds. Okay, so these are the things that determine the civilization we have today. These are the sources of everything we have on earth today. Okay, there are other fringe backgrounds, but at the core are these three. Okay, you can add African to it, but of course we know the African source is a more unitary source. Okay, the evolutionists trace every human being down to Africa. Of course, that is another issue. But on a general basis, these three sources are important: Semitic, Persian, and Arabian. Okay, so in tracing these sources, we see the dominance of Judeo-Christianity. Okay, Judeo-Christianity has determined quite a bit of what the world is today. as historically can be confirmed. Okay, so this is what we see, and because of this, we find that whatever we are, whatever moral definition of good and evil is traceable to Judeo-Christianity. Okay, the biblical narrative, whether we like it or not. And it is at this inflection point that we see, of course, other points of view coming and saying no, there are other civilizations or other sources to our definition of good and evil, of course, and they are, through postmodernism, they are beginning to assert themselves. We will look at that in a bit, but let us continue with this discussion in the way we have started. Okay, we know that our civilization today has a dominance of Judeo-Christianity. Of course, we know Islam itself is related to Judeo-Christianity. Okay, so all these, have one source: Semitic, Persian, and Arabian. Okay, but of course, like we have said, we are way past the church age. Okay, and people are beginning to forecast the eventual fall of Judeo-Christianity, okay, for the emergence of a postmodern Renaissance, whether we like it or not. Okay, Judeo-Christianity will fall for a postmodern Renaissance, and there are reasons for this. Okay, because of the breakthroughs in science, okay, and medical research, the breakthrough in AI, and the emergence of the new frontier, space, and the new frontier. Although in this program, of course, I have tried to bring in some issues that we must look at, and I'll still bring them out today. But we know that human beings, as complex as we are, because of our definition, our reliance on prosperity as the what determines good and evil, this is sure to come forth. Okay, because of these three reasons. First of all, I have mentioned science, the breakthrough in science and medical research, the breakthrough in AI, and in space and the new frontier. Because of these three reasons, Judeo-Christianity is prophesied to fall, even by the Bible itself. Okay, and of course it has fallen before, a long time ago, and of course it was able to survive all these centuries and thousands of years, but it still controls quite a bit of what we do up to today. But we have come to that point where it is threatened with complete annihilation, even from within. Okay, so this is what we're going to build a background from this. Okay, and we're going to now try to find out, ask this question: will humanity determine what is good and evil at the end? Of course, vis-a-vis our discussion, a human Messiah, okay? Or will God still do it? And we know what arises from that. And the question has always been, will Jesus return? Okay? This is what determines the preponderance of human civilization. Okay? That is why Judeo-Christianity has survived all this time, even after falling the first time. Okay? Because of the expectation of the return of Jesus Christ. But this expectation is still very ripe, and if at all Jesus does not return, the final fall of Christianity will occur. Okay, and there are other factors that will be looked at. I will look at these. Science and medical breakthroughs have ranged into various major fields. Okay, the microbial, okay, anatomic. Of course, you must have heard that the entire human genome has been sequenced by now. Okay, about 5 to 6 years ago, the first artificial cell was booted up by a team of scientists. Of course, cloning has gone very far. I just heard yesterday of a new way to produce babies just by harvesting the skin cells of a human being. Quantum computing has gotten to its the final stages of that breakthrough. Fusion has also achieved one or two breakthroughs, and so these are the things that have come up. There are claims that AI has achieved some sort of the breakthrough also in the fact that it might be conscious. Okay, so these are the things that have happened. Of course, we are talking about the space, and all these things, of course, will determine our successes in space. And this is the very important reason, one of the very important reasons why these breakthroughs are important, have become very, very important for the survival of human beings here on Earth and also in space, if at all we are able to achieve that. And we're going to be looking at a very important concept in this at the end of this very episode. But we will let's keep on tracing what is happening, because there are no guarantees. One of the things that we have known is that even though evidence has always been for the authenticity of Christianity, authenticity of the Bible, the Bible has never been the most popular document on earth, and so it still applies to this very discussion. And so we must continue to talk about these things in detail, because the very detail matters. One of the reasons science is very important, because it depends a lot on detail. And for that reason, we must emphasize the details of the theological, how it affects the individual lives and every human being on the face of the planet Earth. Okay, so these are some of the breakthroughs that are going to change the face of humanity in the next 1,000 years or so, if we are still here in those 1,000 years. Okay, cloning, digital twins, all these things, how are they going to affect our lives from day to day? Okay, so before we finally deal with this issue, we're going to look at another issue. You might be saying, okay, yeah, we're talking about the breakthroughs in science, but we're also seeing the rise of religions. Okay, of course, we talked about the Middle East, and we saw how the Middle East is still rife with a lot of tensions because of religious and cultural history of that very location. Okay, and so we'll be talking about the failure or successes of the new religion vis-a-vis the return of Jesus Christ, the takeover of Islam, and the new age, which is the new age religion, which is fairly consistent with the new world order. Okay, so these are the three major religions in the world. Christianity, and in Christianity there is the expectation of the coming of the Messiah. Judeo-Christianity. In Islam, Islam believes in entrenching the Quran, of course, at a global level, and through jihad, whether it is peaceful jihad or not. Okay, and then we know the new age, which is a silent force but is taking over in many areas and is very strong within atheism, within the science community. And so we are seeing these things, of course, the New Age movement, and we know the New Age is all about Asian mystic arts, and then it has become mixed with science. It has become the New Age religion. So these are the three things, okay? So the failures or successes of these three will determine the new frontier, will determine the future of humanity in the next 1,000 years. Okay? Will Jesus return? Will the Messiah come for the Jews? Will he be Jesus Christ for the Christians? Okay? Will there be a merger of these two personalities as the Bible prophesies? Okay? Will he return? Or will Islam be able to finally entrench a jihad in the world, which the world, of course, we know is very contentious, okay? Or will the New Age movement take over in the form of the new science and atheistic movements? Okay, these are the three things we are looking at, and we've said that the New Age is really planting a foot down amidst the preponderance of science. Okay, so we have looked at this, okay, and this is the most likely scenario that will play out, the New Age. While, of course, we know Islam is still fighting its way through, and of course, the weakest of these is probably Judeo-Christianity, but is also, very rife. Even it's my own point of view, of course. I believe I will round up with this very soon. But this is what we see. Okay, so in this, we're going to look at that important factor that gives Judeo-Christianity a very strong stance in this. And that is why there is a faction within the New Age that is Christian, okay, has a Christian bias. And what are we going to be looking at? I pointed it out in the last episode, okay, the macro and micro, the macro and micro. And this is a point of view that I have discovered very recently, and it's a very simple concept. Okay, when you look at the space race, we are talking about, okay, the macro. Okay, you look at space, you look at the solar system, the entire universe. It is billions and billions of light years wide. Okay, very massive. Okay, and it has really attracted humanity's attention from the very beginning of time. Okay, but also scientists using the same instrument, which is the telescope, have been able to discover the micro. Okay, and it is very similar to the macro, but it has a lot of hidden secrets for us to tap into. And these are the two fields that are changing the world. Okay, the astronomical space and the microbial space. Okay, so these are the two fields that are changing the world. Now, when you understand this and you go into the Bible, you see the same thing happening. Okay, God creating the world. Okay, from Genesis chapter 1 to 31. Okay, verse 1 to 31, and then Jesus Christ coming as a person. Now, the macro is God Himself, of course, creating the world. Then Jesus Christ coming in John chapter 1 verse 1. Okay, the Word becoming flesh. Okay, that is the micro. Okay, He comes as an individual and comes and dwells with humanity at a micro level. Okay, so this is the same symbolism showing itself. And so somehow, while knowing that we are doomed to the definitions of our own human senses as to good and evil, we still have the preponderance of the Judeo-Christian point of view. God's word in all this. Okay? So there is a gap. Remember what I said in the beginning. To solve the human problems, you have to bridge the gap between science and religion, especially science and Christianity. Okay? So this is what it is. So Jesus, of course, shows himself in the micro, while God has already created the macro. Okay? He is responsible for creating the whole world. So in this, the question arises, with this knowledge, should we continue to proliferate the systems which I talked about last episode, that negate Christ, that negate Christianity? That system is in the D-Way system that promotes a human at the expense of the historical Christ. The other system is in the system of the 666 that creates a replica system negating and avoiding the truths in the Word of God. These are the questions. These are the questions that we must continue to continuously ask ourselves as individuals. And the important thing that I've come to see, if the solution lay in just a general allusion to fact, there won't be any need to go into the micro. We will just go into space, rely on how our ability to get into space without going into the micro, okay, into the microbial. And we know that the solution to space is also in the microbial. The ever-present threat of humanity perpetrating all the evils that it does not have to are always there. That is why we always discuss these issues. Okay? The existence of the 666 world government. Every day when you deal with the things that I have to deal with in the work I do, you see the continuous existence of these evil, as it were, denying us of the ability to do the good that we should do. Okay? And the very threat of us not achieving our destiny as human beings because of the existence of the evil of the 666 is always there. Okay? Even with the knowledge that we have the truth and we have the answers in our grasp, it is not enough to have these answers. It is enough to go down to the nitty-gritty and say, what is the solution at the individual level, at the community level? We cannot just allude to community without being concerned about each and every individual. This is the point I want to make, and I'm concerned with in this episode. So the answer to our question is very simple. There wouldn't be any need for us to go into the microbial if we could have solved the problems of the world at the macro level by just looking into space. Jesus would not have come down if he had solved the whole problem of the world just by creating it. Okay? So what is the answer to our question? God still has the answers to the problems of human beings. And human beings, left to themselves, cannot define good and evil, have never been able to define good and evil, have no capacity whatsoever in defining good and evil. And so the book of the Bible remains our only source of truth. And unfortunately, as weak as it is, the document that it is the supreme source of our understanding of moral standing, of moral standards. Okay? As weak as it is, as weak as we are at the pinnacle of creation, as weak as we are. And as weak as the Bible is, it is the standard, beginning from the Ten Commandments, for moral standing in this world that we live in. And we must remain glued to this book, no matter where it comes from, whether Semitic or otherwise. We must be glued to it, and we must know that the solution to our problems lies in understanding its source and where it is taking us. I am David Ndichinke today for you in Searching the Heart.
It's a long, long way back home. It's a dry and dusty patch to where I belong. I hear you calling, my heart is breaking. I hear your voice, you're saying come home, come home. I hear the trumpets, my heart rejoicing. I hear your voice, you're saying come home, come home. I hear you calling, my heart is breaking.
Discover a transformative journey into the kingdom of heaven. Following the initial publication, the author dives deeper with two insightful follow-up books. Ever felt disconnected from God even in worship? Explore how God's unconventional ways can transform your life. How can you align with divine plans, avoiding distractions? Find answers in The Kingdom of Heaven on Earth and The Three, Illuminating Christian Truths and Prophetic Practices. Unlock profound insights guiding you toward a deeper connection with God. Don't miss out. Dive into this enlightening exploration today. Click the link on the caption to get your copy.